Hey, hi Dieter. Hi everybody out there. Capt Ron here with our weekly Fearless Flight Live show. I gotta get a little enthusiasm up. It's been chilly here in the Phoenix area, as I guess it still is everywhere else out there.
Yeah.
And welcome everybody. This is our weekly show. Tonight, I think you'll find it interesting if you're one of the many people that ask us from time to time, "Hey, I'm flying on X airline. Are they safe?" And of course, my normal flippant answer is it's safe to get on if the captain gets on, or the pilots get on. But we'll have a little bit more detail for you. It's an annual study that came out just a week and a half ago, I think, and we're going to go through that in detail. And so let me share my screen and get this show on the road. Okay. All right. So,
That's a Word document that you're sharing.
oh, come on. Come on. How about this one? How about
Nope.
I have to click? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Then it
There we
switches
go.
underneath. So,
Now we're
okay. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to Fearless Flight Live, our weekly show for people who are afraid to fly, people who know somebody who's afraid to fly, and people who just like to keep track of the airline industry. I'm here with my able assistant, Dieter Staudinger. We always like to make a pitch for our Fearless Flight private Facebook group called Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather. If you haven't joined that, we surely encourage you to do that.
big shout out to Jeffrey and
yeah,
all the people that commented. Super exciting. If you haven't joined the Birds of a Feather group, you got to get in there. It's just an amazing group of people, and I think we're about 1,300 1,700 now,
yeah.
and it's just a really great place to be if you're anxious to fly and you want some support from other really amazing human beings.
Dieter and I were just discussing Don Wilbanks put a really nice post in there last week, I believe. He had a really positive experience. He hadn't flown in some time, and I think he was referencing a year ago when he was still afraid. Used the harmonizer and had a really good trip. And Don, if you're listening, I sent a message inviting you to come on as a guest if you would so desire. So thanks for making a comment for sure. Tonight we're going to talk about the world's safest airline. We'll discuss briefly the latest on the resumption of our LA area classes. We'll highlight the next month's webinar, our live monthly group coaching webinar, and of course we'll answer any questions that you come up with or attempt to answer that. Tonight we have kind of a melancholy announcement here to make. As many of you know, Fearless Flight has always been a labor of love for us. And it's our effort to help you on your journey to transform your fears of flying into newfound confidence. And over the years, I've been fortunate to share this mission with some remarkable people who have made invaluable contributions to Fearless Flight in the community. And one of those people is Eric Larson. Eric's been a trusted friend and fellow pilot for more than 30 years. And another is Diane Hansen, whom I met a little bit more recently. Nonetheless, Eric and Diane have been a steady presence in Fearless Flight, lending their time and expertise to support classes for our weekly Facebook show, as well as live classes. Their insights and dedication have enriched countless lives. A lot of you have talked to them personally, and I'm deeply grateful for the energy and the heart that they brought to our work. Recently, they decided to take a step back from their involvement with the weekly show. We had a difference of understanding about scheduling a week and a half ago for one of our shows, and it led them to reevaluate where they were at and how they want to spend their time, and they decided to disengage, just at least for the present time. I fully support them in prioritizing what's most meaningful to them. And we will miss their presence. I want to take this opportunity to thank Eric and Diane for all they've done for Fearless Flight. And their contributions have left a lasting impact And I know I'm not alone in wishing them all the best in their next chapter, whatever it is that they do. So Eric, Diane, we'll miss you, but your legacy will remain a part of Fearless Flight. And thanks for being a memorable part of this journey. With all my gratitude, and I'm sure Dieter would second that. So
Oh my
thanks.
God, I'm very grateful for all that you guys have offered and given so freely, even flying out to Los Angeles when we had classes out there. So yeah, absolutely. I'll miss you guys on the show, but hopefully, whatever your next adventure is, I hope we'll get to share in it at some point.
Absolutely. Okay, so tonight I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on the world's safest airline for 2025. The numbers just came out. And by way of introduction, like I said, a lot of you ask me from time to time, or ask us, what's the safest airline? And there is a website, as you might not be surprised, called airlineratings.com, and it's a globally recognized platform for assessing airline safety. And airlineratings.com is the globally recognized authority in airline safety and product reviews. And they're really well known for their comprehensive evaluations of the airline industry. We're going to get into some of that and of course their ratings tonight, and hopefully give you a little bit more insight, maybe a little bit another notch of comfort when you're determining or thinking about flying on someone there. They provide us travelers with reliable insights, and the platform looks at 385 airlines annually. And they look at critical factors such as incident history, age of the fleet, pilot training, and I believe they look at other training as well, but pilot training for sure, and adherence to the international safety standards. They use a rigorous methodology that uses audits. It combines audits from the International Civil Aviation Organization, that's ICAO, that's the international equivalent of our Federal Aviation Administration, and then the IATA, International Air Transport Association, Operational Safety Audit, IOSA. And this is all focused on providing a transparent and multidimensional approach to safety assessments. And with a team of aviation experts and a commitment to empowering passengers with knowledge, airlineratings.com has become really a trusted resource for anyone seeking to understand and navigate which airlines are the safest. And as I mentioned, here's some of the key factors that they use. They look at serious incidents. Recent examples would be Alaska when they had the door blow out. That would be a serious incident. Accidents are usually defined by either significant hull damage or loss of life or injury to people. And there's far more incidents than there are accidents, of course, and we're grateful for that. But some of the things in the industry that I've talked about before, we have special programs in all of the major airlines now where we look at incidents, and we have other programs even one level below incidents where we can tell on ourselves as pilots, among other people in the industry, when we have experiences that didn't result in revelation to anybody outside of maybe the crew, but the crew felt it was important to let somebody know, and so that's why it gets safer and safer and safer every year. Other things in the criteria are fleet age and size, and I think there will be some surprises here when you see the list here, and fleet age and size will be one of the reasons for some of the surprise, I believe. The incident rates and fatalities, as we mentioned, profitability, and the certification from IATA and ICAO audits. And of course, they list specifically pilot training and skill and training. One of the things I wanted to make sure that I did was, you see the rankings there, and then you have this organization that you may not have ever heard from before. We wanted to make sure that we answer your question. So what? What does that mean? Anybody can publish a list, in a newspaper, something like that. But this is a very, very formalized thing. And this slide highlights the key entities responsible for the study. Although I've never heard of her. Sharon Peterson is the CEO responsible at airlineratings.com. And this emphasizes the credibility of airlineratings.com and her leadership in amassing these evaluations. Let's see, I've already said they've established themselves as the authority in the airline industry, and the process is backed by a team of aviation experts who draw from a wealth of experience in the industry. So they have outside people that they invite to come in and go over the data through this. What's the statistical validity of the study? Like I said, it uses data sources and specific methodology to go through these things. And they're built on a really, really robust foundation of data sourced from IATA and the IATA's operational safety audit, as well as ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority. And by using these sources, they ensure that only the most critical and reliable safety metrics are considered. So you don't get a lot of fluff in here either. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a great question, because Joan either was reading my mind or I was reading Joan's mind, or however it worked. We were both wondering, do you know how the study is paid for? Like, is it from their membership dues? Is it from, do you have any idea?
Yeah, I do not, but I will find that out. And as you suspected, you mentioned dues. I would suspect that it's in IATA, International Air Transport Association, and ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization. I expect that it's in their best interest to have somebody do this audit. It adds credibility to their organization and stuff. But that is a great question. I don't know who does pay for that. And then there, as in anything, you have educational people. I'm sure that our good friend Arnold Burnett probably at least looks at this information when he in the course of his work and does that. So let's see, I want to read this one note I had here. The study evaluates airlines on multiple criteria, which we've discussed up here, and it makes a particular focus on the past 2 years. So this short time frame ensures that the rankings are really current and timely in terms of safety trends. And the process is designed to be multidimensional, combining a lot of various metrics, to create a comprehensive safety profile for each airline. So each airline gets a really, really tight audit, and transparency is the key to making this successful. And also it allows the stakeholders to understand and trust the results. Reliability. It has several strengths that make it reliable resource for travelers. And this is one of the things I wanted to include here, why you should lend your trust in this, because trust is an issue for people who have an issue or have anxiety when they fly. The use of transparent criteria and internationally recognized safety audits ensures credibility. And it covers 385 airlines worldwide. I don't know if I mentioned that before. And so it has a global perspective. And it says longstanding reputation. Airlineratings.com has a longstanding reputation in the aviation community. And there are limitations to consider, and these are worth noting. Some of the data, such as pilot training hours, may be self-reported. So they don't actually go in there and do an audit at individual airlines to validate how much training that the airlines say that they do. But the thing I think you can rely on there is because of the regulation and compliance, you know that they have to, that they're audited separately in terms of the U.S. airlines by the FAA. So that is something that, even though it might not be as reliable data or self-reported, you can count on that foundation of that. And let's see, and it does include biases when people self-report, of course. Qualitative judgments like assessing an airline's reputation may introduce subjectivity. Some people just have a better, have some passes in that area. The focus on data for the last 2 years, while ensuring relevance, it may overlook long-term safety trends. And Dieter and I were joking about that. You know, you can have the #1 rated airline here, you get on it and they can have an incident tomorrow. So, you know, that's the nature of aviation in general, or anything with human beings involved in it. But despite these challenges, the study provides valuable insights in the current state of the aviation. And so here's the top 10, and these are full service. We have both full service airline rankings and the low cost carriers, because they've come to occupy a different part of the industry now. So here's the top 10. Air New Zealand right at the top. Qantas is #2, and the airline and Air New Zealand beat out Qantas because it has a younger fleet and operational excellence. So it means that they have fewer incidents, and I don't think either of them had any accidents, but that's how they beat out that. And then you get down here. Some of these were a surprise to me. I don't know about you all, but Dieter and I were kind of surprised that we didn't see the Western industrialized countries occupying the top slots in here. And in fact, when we look at Arnold Barnett's statistics, he evaluates the safety criteria in terms of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 airlines. Tier 1 are essentially United States, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, China, what else? There's some other countries. Anyway, highly industrialized countries operate tier 1, but this has airlines down in all 3 tiers here. So let that be a lesson to me and to all of you out there. It's you know, we've talked about this. Not only have the tier 1 airlines improved their safety record over the last 50 years, but they've kind of carried the other airlines with them, or at least inspired them to now they're getting the top ratings in here. So you can see this. Virgin Australia, they have an operation down in Australia that they do. Alaska was the top ranked US airline out there at #9. And so that is for whatever it's worth, you have the top 10 there. And as I mentioned, Air New Zealand edged out Qantas due to a younger fleet. Iberia, which is the old, what do they call the Spanish? It was I can't remember. It was the Spanish national airline, and matter of fact, one of our clients, Milica, just flew over on Iberia to Florida earlier in the week, and I gotta send her a text and see how she did. Vietnam Airlines appeared on the list for the first time, so both of these up there. So that's kind of encouraging, I think. You know, when you consider the fact that airlines that new and in countries that we might not have associated with excellence are on there. Singapore and KLM were noted as exceptionally safe despite not ranking. I don't know what that's about, but I know that Singapore has a long-standing reputation as the most luxurious airline to fly on, and I'm looking forward to try to do that once in my life. Haven't done it yet. Here are the top low-cost airlines, and you know, at the top of the list, Hong Kong Express, Jetstar Group. I don't even know who that is.
I have no idea where they fly or who they are.
Yeah. Ryanair, they are a long-standing low-cost carrier. They copied the Southwest model originally, and oh my God, they dominate Europe. I don't know how many airplanes and flights they have every day. EasyJet is one of the airlines that has a flying safety program. They hold live classes over in London, and they have an online course as well. Frontier Airlines, this was a little bit of a surprise because I swear not too long ago I heard them in the news for some challenges to the maintenance practice, but according to this, not so much. AirAsia. Wizz Air, that's an interesting name. Vietjet Air, I've never heard of them. Southwest.
It's a Vietnamese, I have not flown them, but when I was in Thailand, we actually saw Vietjet, and I think they're fairly They fly out of Vietnam and Thailand, and I think
Yeah,
China.
I'm sure they do. And at the top, U.S. Frontier was top, and now in Southwest was in number 9 position there. And then rounding out the top 10 was Valeris. I've ridden on Valeris. That's a Mexican airline down there. Highlights for some of these: JetBlue came in at 17th. This is for the low-cost airlines. Allegiant, a lot of you fly Allegiant. Allegiant has a very different business model. They operate at oftentimes perimeter airports, like Allegiant here in the Phoenix area operates out of the old Williams Air Force Base, which is where I went to pilot training 55 years ago. When the Air Force abandoned that base, they turned it over to the city of Mesa here, and they turned it into a commercial airport. And Allegiant operates out of there. And Allegiant operates point to point with a lot of lesser destinations. And so many of you, and they typically don't have the frequency daily, but they'll go like 2 or 3 days a week. They'll fly to certain things. And then Hong Kong Express led the rankings for the low cost airlines there.
But you know who's like absent? Like what's with American Airlines, United,
Oh,
Delta?
I know. And I did read in there, and they're on the list and all that. And I think one other thing to mention is, because they don't make the top 10 or they don't make the top 20 or whatever, you don't need to fret that, oh my God, I can't get on American Airlines anymore with confidence, or Delta or all that. They all, because as we've often said, that what really makes the airlines reliable and safe is technology and regulatory compliance. They have to meet that criteria. And so just the difference between, if there's any disparity between the top and the bottom, it's really marginal. It's really not much of a case at all. This is just a little bit about Sharon Peterson's comments about fleet age and pilot training significantly influenced the rankings, and that's a good criteria. But fleet age, again, one of the things you have to be careful on, if you look at an airplane that's out there operating in its 15th year or its 20th year, and what pops into mind, like so many things, is particularly if you grew up in the Midwest, I did, with salt, where they treat winter weather roads with salt and stuff, is you see cars that through the year out, the rocker panels all rusted out. We don't do that with airplanes. As a matter of fact, one of the things that they do when they go in for a D check, which is a complete overhaul, is they strip the airplane down to its bare metal, and they paint it first with a kind of a green colored corrosion control paint. So they're very sensitive to corrosion on that. And so that's why the regular maintenance, the maintenance programs, and economies of scale are why the airlines are so safe, no matter what.
Would you say that in general? I mean, that's just me inferring, but I'm gonna say in North America or in Europe, I feel a lot more comfortable stepping onto an older airplane and then that's my bias. I totally, concede that. But somewhere in Southeast Asia or somewhere, do you know what I mean? Because
I do.
You don't know if they actually have the same stringent. They might have the same rules, but how those rules, there's a lot to do with culture, is what I'm gonna say.
Absolutely. And the two criteria that they list at the top, Dieter, the fleet age and the pilot training, are two things that would level the playing field. Because the training, oftentimes, not as much now, but when I was still flying, you had a lot of people, a lot of baby boomers like me that when they retired, they became employed by a lot of the foreign carriers in their training departments. So that's one way that we diffused a lot of expertise. The crew resource management, the human factors programs helps to bridge the differential power differential in cockpits, like in Asian cultures and Latin American cultures tended to be greater. Now they've leveled that a little bit more, and then the fact that we saw a lot of the airplanes in the top 10 over here. Well, in both categories, the low cost and the full service airlines, we saw a lot of names that we didn't have a lot of name recognition for. And that means they probably started in the last 5 or 10 years or maybe even less. And so they tend to have airplanes that are newer, and it brings the age of the fleet down. So that would be another natural tendency for them to have a better safety record or rank higher in safety. So see, one of the things they said was the scoring similarities between Cathay Pacific, Qatar Airways, and Emirates, which led to they tied for third place because of that, because they were all very, very, very close to each other. In conclusion of this, it's really important to know that these are reliable rankings for safer travel. So you can count on this. So now you can have a place. You can come back to our website, or you can look up airlineratings.com on your own if you have any doubts and you need reassurance on that. Certainly talk to us, send us an email or whatnot in there, and just the responsibility for the article here. I want to give credit again to airlineratings.com as a credible source, and they're operating on a longstanding reputation of providing reliable evaluations for global airlines. To the CEO Sharon Peterson, who's responsible for making all this happen, and the fact that they have the statistical validity of the studies comes from reliable data sources. I mentioned ICAO and the International Air Transport Association's operational safety audit certifications, and they largely look at incidents, fatalities, and fleet maintenance history, along with pilot training. And they use a multi-dimensional approach, so it's not just a cursory, scanning of the surface issues and all this. What else do I want to say about this? The strengths are its transparency, clear identification of the evaluation criteria, and the use of publicly available safety audits. So it's not something they're getting behind the scenes that the public in general could not access. The global scope of this, it is 385 airlines. So if I was flying, I would want to first see if my airline was one of these 385. That would be something to start with, if they've submitted themselves to that. And they have a lot of experience in doing this over the years. Some of the limitations that I touched on before, some of the data points are self-reported, like pilot training hours, and it may rely on the airlines being truthful about that. But again, because of the regulance and compliance of training programs, I would not worry about that as I might otherwise have in previous years. There are qualitative judgments, such as evaluating the airline reputation. And that's where I think we're kind of surprised that we didn't see Delta, American, United out there, because we value them in our own minds higher because we're more familiar with them. But it doesn't mean we're the only guys in town anymore, for sure.
Well, what I noticed is that there were a lot of airlines occupying those top spots, that what I would call, like, Australia, New Zealand, like Oceania, like all around there. That's really amazing. But then again, I imagine they have a lot of I don't know, exposure maybe, because the North American market is one thing, flying domestically, but Australia is also a humongous continent.
Yeah, Australia is growing rapidly. The United States used to account for 60% of the airline traffic in the world every day. Now, I'm guessing, and of course, it's double what it was when I started flying in the airlines in 1978. And of course, with that, we've gotten a lot more traffic. But I suspect that, like places like Australia, Europe, there's more traffic over there as well. So it'd be interesting. I should maybe have done a little research on seeing what the percentage is over here. But anyway, so we wanted to provide that to you to answer those questions or help you answer those questions. Can I trust the airline that I'm getting on? So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us.
And I also put the survey. We have just a couple of questions.
Yeah.
If you didn't get our email earlier tonight, then I also put the link to the survey in the chat. And we're gonna send out an email also with the original.
Yeah, I wrote an article based on this study, and with the reference to the study, and so we're going to send that out when Dieter sends out the.
Sorry, I meant to say a Capt Ron original.
Yeah, there you go. Original. I researched thanks to
yes, exactly.
Okay, so I want to make a quick note again. Our good friend Talat, who owns Air Hollywood over in the Los Angeles area. He was released from being on lockdown or on guard, I should say, for having to move from his house or evacuate his house. But then a new fire broke out in the area of his studio. So as far as I've not heard negatively, but I believe he said his home is safe. But he was a little bit unguarded about that. So we still haven't been able to. I've been trying to get over there to take a look at his new facility and plan that. We were hoping to get this class going in February. We have completely abandoned any hope of that. We're shooting for March 8th. It is not official yet. I need to lock that in with Talat. But if at all possible, we're going to have our first class, the resumption of our formal classes over there in the Los Angeles area at the Air Hollywood Studios on March 8th. So stay tuned. If you live over there, we've got a lot of people that have asked me over the years. This will be a fun class. It'll be a low cost class, and it'll be in a wide body mock-up, and the experience is unequaled. It's just phenomenal. So we hope you can make it. Okay.
So there's Ron, before we go on,
yeah.
There's a great question. You know how we were talking earlier about A, B, C, and D checks and how complete.
Yes.
So what is the lifespan of a 737, for example? Like, I know that there are no more 737 like 200s, for example, in service, or are there still? Like, I don't know.
Before I even answer that, I was just thinking, gosh, that would be a great monthly topic. So I got 10 of them in a row, but I think I'm going to squeeze in maintenance. So as Dieter mentioned, we have a level. In order to be a major airline, you have to have a maintenance program, and that's one, so that it has regulatory compliance to it, and the other one is so that for the airlines, cost effectiveness, so that they don't, they put them all into service the same day, and then in 2 years, all the airplanes got to be pulled out of service for overhaul. So they stagger them in an approved FAA program, and so the A check is the shortest one. It's usually done once a day by a couple of mechanics, and that goes up through a B check, a C check, and a D check. They're each increased in the length of time, the depth of what they look at in service, and how long it's pulled off the line. When you get to a D check, that airplane comes off the line for about 6 weeks, and it's completely stripped down. Anything that is removable is taken off the airplane, and they take a good look at that. I know that I've seen airplanes that have flown upwards of 20 years. As a general rule, when we go through financial hard times, either globally or certainly in the domestic U.S., what happens is the airlines usually they have to pull airplanes out of service because they can't fill all the seats, and the first ones to go are the older ones. because they're the most expensive to maintain and operate. So as bad as financial hard times are, the good thing is if you're an airline passenger, you're going to be riding on newer equipment when you fly, generally speaking. And so I don't have an industry average. And like I said, some airlines, by virtue of being newly started, newly commissioned, they may have generally younger or airplanes that are newer in service.
And the D check is every how many years?
D check it's about 2
hours
years
of operation.
Yeah, it's a combination of hours and cycles. And we rate those separately because the hours is of course one of the things that is the constant as to how long the airplane has been in service and in use. But the cycles are important because the stress on an airplane is greatest when it takes off, it's pressurized, and then when it lands, it's depressurized. So it's every flight it inflates somewhat like a balloon, and then it decompresses. And so we count cycles because that's every time the airplane touches down, it depressurizes. So cycles are another criteria, but generally it falls about every couple of years or so, and it'll be pulled out of service.
So at some point, it just also is not financially.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why that leads me to another unanswered or unasked question, and that is how long in the question of how long they use it. The airlines usually don't go much past 4 D checks. Okay, that would negate the 2 years because that would only be 8 years. But depending on how many D checks, because the D check is the most expensive one, and it's the one. And then they'll go into a secondary market. They will be D checked. They'll be discounted for some airlines that may be younger or just starting out. But they have to be refurbished and all that.
But they go into cargo too, right? And
they sometimes they go into air freight. Exactly.
Thomas, Thomas wants to know if we're still live. Yes, we're still live. So if you have a question, especially about airline safety, now is the time to ask Thomas. Hurley just made a comment. She said she recently read in a study that American Airlines was ranked the worst in safety out of all the US airlines.
I think I saw that as well.
I have heard something similar as well. Yeah.
And again, they use a similar criteria. They look at incidents and training and things like that. So be careful when you see them ranked worst, because like I said, the margin is so tight. It's
I was just gonna say the same thing, Ron. If literally just 1 point separates, okay, you have to swallow your pride because you're 8th or 9th, but as far as what we're really after here is it safe for you to step onto an airplane? And all of the airplanes, whether it's an American airline plane or a Frontier, because they rated really high in that study that we just showed, ultimately it is safe on both of them to fly from wherever you're going. I think that's that we can't let that out of sight. You know what I mean? Because oh my God, they're 28th, but then they're all separated by raising.
And in fact, Frontier and Allegiant, I can tell you, it's difficult as I get older because I think it was 5 years ago, it was 10 years ago, but nonetheless, it wasn't that long ago in my memory that Frontier and Allegiant both got into hot water because of incidents. Allegiant had a couple of engines that they shut down in flight. And one of the issues was they were using older Airbus MD-80 airplanes. And what happened is they recycled the fleet. They got a bunch of A320s in there. So there you have a case in point. Frontier, I think, was the same. They got a bunch of new airplanes. And so that tends to shoot them up higher in the rankings because of the fleet age and the reliability. It goes hand in hand. So, okay. All right. So our premier event every month is our live monthly group coaching session, part of our Clifford Takeoff 201 courses. And we came up with a topic: taking back the controls, overcoming the fear of losing control while flying. That is the fundamental bottom line for anybody I've ever talked to about fear of flying. It's either fear of losing control or not being in control. And again, we're going to do the main webinar will be on February 20th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll have an encore presentation on January 22nd, which is the following Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern.
Sorry, that should be February, right?
Oh, yeah, of course it should be. Let me see if I can get back to that, and I'll change it on the fly. And on the slide here.
Well, yes, because we literally just had our January monthly group coaching webinar, and I would, you know what, if you are kind of like wherever you are on your journey about overcoming your fear of flying, but it starts with a commitment and it starts with some kind of action. And you know, being here listening to aviation themed stories and you know, information, that's a great start. But you gotta also allow yourself to get a little bit deeper into the process, and the monthly group coaching webinars are really designed to do that.
If people ask, what should I do if I was tight on a budget, I didn't have anything else that I could do or time or whatever, two things. I would get the flight harmonizer, FearlessFlight kit with the flight harmonizer in it, and I would do a monthly coaching session. Those are because you get the best of the FearlessFlight method, the education, the learn how to distract and disrupt your thinking, and you experience a community of people like you, and the harmonizer is something that you can start listening to immediately in minutes after you download. After you go through the payment portal, you'll be able to download the files, and the webinar doesn't just get you access to that webinar; it gives you access to all the historical webinars as well. And even if you do it on a one-time basis for that period of time, that month, you have access to things. And that's where I would put my energy to start with. And it's $47 if you want to do the monthly coaching webinar on a one-time basis. If you want to sign up for month to month, it's $37 or $57 depending on which level you join at, and you can quit after the
so
first
much
month.
more with the 37 and with the 57. So, but of course, this is really where if you've been with us for a while, then you know that one of the things that we're very fond of saying here is that the pain in your brain is not about the plane. And that's often it's really hard, especially if you're on the beginning of your journey, and you know, you can't deny the sweat, you can't deny the anxiety, you can't deny all of that, which you only have when you think about an airplane or when you go and fly on an airplane. But the reality is that what's really going on inside has nothing to do with the plane. It's a catalyst. It's a very convenient, I'm gonna say, projection, but it is not the source of your challenges.
And when people realize that, it's a short journey to having the confidence that makes the trips, flying trips, much more pleasant.
Yeah.
You don't have to then sort through everything, worrying about whether it's going to be turbulent or not, whether there's going to be weather and all that. You have a process that you can approach each time you fly, and every time you fly, you do it with more competence and more grace. It's just a great experience. So don't. The saddest thing is people that sit out there and never do anything, and there's a lot of them, millions of people. So you don't be one of them. Be somebody who joins that. So, okay. Any other comments or anything, Peter?
No, Roz, I will, I think you meant a monthly program, but, I will message you back how to access that.
Okay.
Everything else, I think we answered all the questions that were in the chat. Thanks, Ron.
Okay. Thanks, Dieter. Thanks to all of you out there. And we'll see you next week again for Fearless Flight Live. Have a great week, everybody.
And good night,
Stay
everyone.
warm. Bye-bye.